How was India? Oh my God. Man, I have so many stories from India, bro. So I was at the airport and I'm just sitting there. I'm starving, so I have like this little plastic container of almonds. It's maybe about yay big. I'm fucking munching on these almonds. I'm trying to eat as many as I possibly can because this was like the start of like my huge journey back to the States. It was like 40 hours to get back home. It was absolutely crazy. But I'm sitting there eating my almonds. I'm eating packaged food because that's what everybody told me to do there, and I'm trying to not, get sick. Spoiler alert, I still got sick, but that's not what the story's about. So I'm sitting there eating my almonds. This Indian woman walks up. I've got two journalists who are my buddies in front of me and one next to me. So I got three guys around me. We're just all hanging out, bullshitting, like before our flight, whatever. And this lady walks up, and I set my almonds down on the ground because I had to grab something from my backpack, and there wasn't anywhere to put it down next to me. So that was a rookie move on my part. The lady walks through, accidentally kicks over my almonds. RIP, almonds are no more. I'm kind of like, all right, cool, whatever. Like I mentally like let go of the almonds. I was like, we're not going to eat them. They fucking spilled everywhere on the ground. That's disgusting, right? The woman then proceeds to, she squats down. She goes to my almonds and is now touching my almonds. I'm like, okay, I guess if they go on the ground, they're fair game for anybody, right? She tries to pick one up to eat it. And I'm like, all right, first of all, bro, those were my almonds. You can't just start eating somebody else's food. But I guess if it went on the ground, it's fair game. She goes to try to eat it. I guess thinks better about it, then puts it back. And I'm like, yo, whatever. I'm collecting all of the almonds to put in the small container because I'm going to throw them away. I'm just like, that was weird. I put them all in. And then while I'm holding it, she goes back in again for the almond, puts her whole hand inside the container. I'm holding the container, and this lady just sinks it right in there, grabs two or three of them, pops them right in her mouth. It was the most baller power move I've ever seen, but also the most disgusting move I've ever seen. I'm like, bro, these are on the ground. They're like a stranger's food. Why are you eating a stranger's food? Absolutely unhinged. I took the lid, I closed the almonds, all my journalist buddies are laughing at me. I'm like laughing because I'm so stunned this woman just ate my almonds. And I was like, I'm just gonna get up and just throw them away because what the fuck? So I got up, everyone's laughing at me, I'm laughing myself, and I just freaking chunk them in the garbage can, and I go back to sit down. Yam 0, India 1, no almonds for me. I'd maybe had like a handful of them. Now I'm once again starving. And I'm like, dude, that was the weirdest thing. I saw not one, but two different people just shitting out in the open for everyone to see. I have video of a guy just dropping trow and just taking a dump in the middle of everybody. Crazy shit. Just there seems to be a big mismatch of, just kind of ignorance about sanitation and some of those things in the cities. And it's just kind of mind-blowing. But luckily, I didn't spend too much time in the cities. We went out to the Himalayas and enjoyed some wonderful riding. And Blitzkrieg, I see you there. Yeah, I'm talking about my India trip. Enjoyed some really amazing roads. And the one thing I wanted to tell you guys, too, is that, because people are like, oh, you freaking rode off-road. Dude, in India, it's like, the off-road just appears. You'll be on a road, and then all of a sudden, there's no road. And then a mile later, it's road again. So a bike like the Himalayan or a dual sport bike is kind of what you want because you never know when the road is just going to randomly end and then something else is going to pop up. Like huge potholes and like lumps in the road, like stuff that if I was driving even like a regular commuter car, I'd be like, ooh, I'm about to like scrape my suspension. I'm about to, case this car a little bit. Everything there needs to be, a little bit rally spec. The other story I want to tell you guys too, because someone asked me how India was. Bro, so we went up to Manali, which is this tiny little town in the Himachal the Himachal region, a little closer to the Himalayas. We flew up there, right? But to get back, we couldn't fly to get back. We had to drive to Chandigarh, which was like the other somewhat bigger city we needed to fly from to Mumbai to then get out of India. So It was a 6-hour drive on these tight-ass, bumpy-ass mountain roads. And my taxi driver, I was with an Argentinian guy in the taxi. We shared the taxi together. I speak a little bit of Spanish. I found out that I'm actually conversational, which was hilarious. I did not know I could. I had 5 hours of chatting with this guy in Spanish, and we were able to get along. We talked about MotoGP and the economy and politics. It was hilarious. But it was 6 hours of my taxi driver going balls to the fucking wall, rally driving, going back from this region, dude. We're fucking carving through. He's dodging cows and people, and if anybody gets in his way, he just starts honking and just fucking pedal to the metal and just gets around him. He was driving like a lunatic. We probably shaved off. It's probably a 7-hour journey. We did it in 5 hours and a half, so thank you, but my life felt like it was in danger. This dude's driving like this, bro. He's like this, slamming gears, downshifting, like chucking it in. I was like, I'm gonna die, bro. There's no guardrails. It was crazy, but I had a lot of fun. It was probably a combined 100 hours of just transit, waiting, layovers, airplanes. So that part kind of sucked. I was gone for 10 days, I think. Time lost all meaning. I was so jet lagged. I showed up the first day I was there, and I straight up just passed out, I think at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up at 9 p.m., and then I was just awake until 4 a.m. It was just really crazy. I don't do well with jet lag. But yeah, the videos, they're really, we got so much good footage. There's so much cool shit. Super excited to launch those. They're coming out on Friday and Saturday. So yeah, there's hopefully you guys enjoyed some of those stories for the Indian adventures. Maybe I'll post some of this up on YouTube because y'all enjoyed. But if y'all are interested, this is kind of just like the live with Yam thing. Not exactly a Yamcast because we don't have our co-host anymore. As many of you might have noticed, Brandon is no longer on the Discord server. Things happened. Brandon actually lives 200 miles away from where Yami Noob is located. So there was just... I kind of, the Brandon thing was a bit of an experiment. I think it was just a short-term guest on the channel. But, he may come back at some point, but right now it's kind of he's got a family. He lives really far away. It's just, it didn't really align very well. So that's kind of what happened. But, so this is kind of just us hanging out. I wanted to talk about the new bikes from all of the EICMA news. There's so much to go through. We're going to talk about today the new Z500 and Ninja 500. I got a lot to say about these two bikes, man. We're talking also about the Suzuki GSX-8R. Is it an R7 competitor? What's going on with that? And then we're also going to be discussing the Ducati Hypermotard 698. After we talk about all that, I want to get y'all's opinions on that. I'm then going to do the call-in portion, so we'll get the phone number back up. I'll put the headphones on. Anything y'all want to ask me, anything you want to chat about, happy to do it. Give you a 30-minute block on that. And yeah, without further ado, we can get started. Y'all let me know, like I said, about those three bikes. Drop some comments or concerns as I'm talking about them, and I will try to read them. But yeah, let's jump in. Brand new-ish Ninja 500 Z500. Y'all kind of knew this was coming, right? I've been talking about this whole year, basically, where we're now entering this new 500-ish cc era. It seems like everybody is plus sizing because of emissions, because of competition. Everybody's now playing in this 450 to 500 cc ballpark, which is really funny because two reasons. We're going back in time in a lot of ways. There used to be a very strong 500 class of motorcycles, stuff like the GS 500s, the Ninja 500s. But I think 20 years ago, maybe more, there was a whole category of 500 class bikes, but there were also the 250s. So you had the 250s, the 500s. The 500s kind of ballooned into the 650 category. So that's what kind of happened. But now there is no more 250, 300s, 400s. Everybody's doing this 500 thing. And again, the second reason it's really funny is Honda has been there, bro. They have been there with this freaking flag planted with one of the most boring motorcycles known to man with the CBR 500 double R. Not double R, single R. And now it's hilarious because they've kind of like failed upwards and that they have this bike that's really competitive. But the thing about the 500 class is all of them need to still meet A2 compliance. And if you don't know, because we're Americans, A2 compliance isn't just a horsepower rating. A lot of people think it's like, oh, it's 48 horsepower, that's all it can be. It actually is a power to weight ratio, and I think a torque to weight ratio too. There's actually pretty nuanced legislation. So that's why this new Ninja 500, it has a stroked out motor, that 451cc Eliminator engine from the Kawasaki Eliminator now found its way into the Ninja 500, but it's not going to be functionally faster than a Ninja 400 because it literally can't be because of legislation in the European region. So what we're getting, which kind of upsets me, is a slower, porkier, torquier, kind of, it's like the Ninja 400. What was great about it is how lightweight it was and how it had this super peppy little engine. It's why I still like the R3 a lot too. We're now getting into this territory where these bikes are getting bloated and fatter and bigger and heavier, and that really takes away from the charm of a little bike. These bikes are now mimicking bigger bikes. We test rode the CF Moto 450 SS, and that was one of my complaints with it. I was like, dude, this bike it's kind of heavy, it's kind of ponderous, it's a little, kind of stupid feeling, if I'm not going to lie. It's a good motorcycle. It feels like a big bike, and it's proper, but it doesn't have the little bike energy that is actually really fun. So let's take a look at this. We're looking at the Ninja 500 here. The styling's been updated a little bit, but most importantly, I want you guys to key in on something here. The suspension, the frame, and the overall running gear is basically the same. We have some styling updates, and it looks a little bit cooler. I think there's a new TFT display on this model, but ultimately, the bones are Ninja 400. But now you have a more strokey engine, a longer stroke engine that increased its displacement. That obviously, when you increase stroke, you reduce the revs. So I'm going to guess this thing redlines now at 11, 10.5, something like that. And that sucks. The whole point of a Ninja 400 is how nice and peppy and revvy it is. We also got the Z400 variants, which I want to clue you guys in. Red Kawasaki's should be illegal. Please let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me, but I really think that red Kawasaki's are just sinful, cursed, bizarre. I just, I want to see that it's like, we have red Hondas, blue Yamahas, yellow Suzuki's, and green Kawasaki's. That's all I want to see. You can't change the colors on me. And one thing that I wanted to point out that I think this news kind of went under the radar, the Z500 and Ninja 500, which is going to take me a long time to get used to saying, these are competing with the newly updated Honda CB500 and Hornet 500 models. So this was something that kind of went under the radar, but now Honda has basically kind of out of nowhere established their kind of new naked bike lineup, right? They're going for the whole Hornet line, the new CB500 Hornet, the CB750 Hornet, and the CB1000 Hornet. That's a whole family of bikes. They phased out the whole CB1000R and all of those bikes. I really hope they don't phase out the CB650R because that's actually a really great motorcycle and very unique in the category, but I think Honda's trying to compete with the lower cost, lower optioned models. But again, this one has a 471cc, 47 horsepower twin. The Ninja 500 now has that too. And to be honest, Yamaha and KTM are in very unique positions where they are going to have very significant second mover advantage to these motorcycles. Everybody's making the same thing basically, except with slight variations on a theme. Aprilia is making the RS 457, CF Moto makes the 450 SS, Kawasaki's making this 500, which is a 451, which, let's be real, that's quite the, rounding up, this should have been called the Ninja 450. That way it could have been a little bit better in terms of the understanding of the bike. I think going 451 and saying it's a 500 is a little suspect in my opinion. But I think Yamaha and KTM specifically are in very, very interesting positions in that they can offer something very unique to the market that isn't going to be the same 450 parallel twin heavy beginner bike. I think Yamaha should not... What's tough is the consumers, they see a bigger number and they're like, cool, it's better. Because they'll see 450 SS from CF Moto, Ninja 500, they're like, well, I want the 500. It's bigger, it's better, it's a 500, it sounds cooler. But I really think that Yamaha should launch an R4 that's a bit of a smaller engine, but revs really hard and is just really exciting to ride and really lightweight. That should be their focus. And then KTM, I think, should just put a better, bigger single cylinder in it and make it just that super race prepped, kind of like Moto 3 inspired bike. That's what I would love to see. I would love to see a 450 single in the KTM that punches really nice and is tractable and just goes really, really well about its business. The other thing that the Ninja 500 and the Z500s are doing that kind of confuse me is, what the hell is the point of a Ninja 650 now? I mean, the Ninja 650 is going to make about 15 more horsepower and it weighs 50 pounds more. I don't understand. If someone's going to go to a Kawasaki dealership and see a Ninja 500, a ZX4RR, a Ninja 650, and a ZX6, do you see how confusing that is? We have a 400, a 500, a 650, and a 600, a 636. And yet, two of them are not really beginner bikes. Two of them are. The one with the bigger number is a beginner bike. The ZX4 isn't a beginner bike. Like, are they just trying to confuse the ever-loving fuck out of the consumer? Because that's how I am right now. And even as a diehard motorcyclist, I still have to, like, if you were to park a Ninja 500, a ZX4, a Ninja 650, and a ZX6, I think I'd have a hard time pointing out the differences because they are all so strikingly similar. And it's like, I've talked about this too, there's these laser tiny little niche markets that Kawasaki's chasing that is just very bizarre to me. But yeah, I think it was an update we kind of knew was going to happen. It makes sense for the market. It doesn't get me all that excited, I'm not going to lie, but it is a motorcycle that I think I'm going to have to get my hands on in some way, shape, or form and test and ride in some capacity. But I did want to see what you guys are saying about it over on the chat. So Tesla Shadow says, Ninja 750 coming. I could see that. I could really see some sort of bigger to compete with the Gixxis 8S and the Hornet 750 and the MT-07, the Trident 660. Kawasaki really doesn't have that middle-ish naked bike, so that's a bit of an issue to me that I would see. Let's see. I like my GS500, but it lacks in a lot of ways. Yeah, like at this point, some of those old 500s are now really just coming into the fold, and yeah, it's just like, it's just weird. K&M Motorsport says, I knew someone who bought the 650 because they thought it was faster than the ZX6. This is what I'm saying. It's confusing for people. It's very, very strange. Davis Roberson says, KTM 550 Duke. Yeah, that would be really cool. And that Matt Prince also says the Z500 looks basically identical to the CB500F. Yeah, it really does, guys. If you look at this, I mean, look at this over here. So we're gonna pull up the CB500F. The CB500 Hornet is now the new one that they're quoting. We'll look at some pictures. This is what it looks like, and then this is the Ninja version. It's like, bro, these are so similar, and I'm so bored. And the ZX4RR was one of the coolest bikes that's come out in the last 2 years or so because it was something different and interesting. But boy almighty, these new beginner bikes are kind of boring me to tears. Well, with all that being said, let's move on to something that isn't going to bore me to tears. Let's talk about the Ducati Hypermotard 698 Mono. Now, this is something that I don't think anyone really expected. Ducati's out here completing side quests because the main mission has already been done. They're just dominating in racing. They're killing it with all the other stuff. They're now like, screw it, we're going to build a motocross bike. Screw it, we're going to build a gigantic supermoto because someone needs to go take it to KTM. I find this so fascinating that Ducati decided to make a Hypermotard mono. And I'm also wondering if they're going to keep the two-cylinder, the twin Hypermotard. But this thing is a outrageously spicy meatball. We're quoting 77 horsepower out of this 698cc, 659cc single. I thought it was 698. Sorry about that. That's outrageous. And they're saying that if you put a Termignoni exhaust on it, you're going to get 85 horsepower out of a single. What are they smoking over there? It's crazy. I'm really interested to see if this engine is going to make its way into anything else. Now, I'm not going to lie, the Supermoto does sound really cool. It sounds awesome to have this Giga Supermoto that makes 85 horsepower. That's outrageous. But I think this 659cc single in perhaps a slightly torquier state of tune, or just in this regular state of tune, I don't know how it runs and rides. What about a lightweight enduro bike? What about a dual sport bike? What about a scrambler with a proper single cylinder? What about a version of this engine that is maybe more beginner oriented, although Ducati has gone on record saying they do not want to make anything beginner oriented, which I think is very funny. But that, I mean, dude, 77 horsepower out of this is absolutely outrageous. Let's take a look at the engine and see if we can get a split. The bike looks pretty good, I gotta say. It's very strange seeing this setup. If I squint my eyes, I'm like, oh, it's a red KTM, but it's not a gas. It is a Ducati. And I want to see if we have a photo of the engine because I want to show you guys something really cool. Got this guy backing it in over here. Looks pretty sweet. It's a good-looking dash, good-looking display. Do we have... This one doesn't have photos of the bike, or excuse me, photos of the engine itself. I'm going to see if I can pull this up for you guys real quick. There it is. Okay, this is the power plant. This thing is outrageous. Okay, that's the only picture I get. Oh, no, I get more pictures, thank God. Okay, this thing's outrageous. The bore and stroke is absolutely stupid. Let me see if I can pull these figures for you guys here. Jesus, 116 millimeter bore piston. What on earth? 13.1 to 1 compression ratio. I mean, this is basically a 450 motocross bike, but bored out to 659 cc's. This is absolutely insane. It can rev to 10,250 RPM, which I'll have you know, the Boom BD250, the rev counter, because that's a little single-cylinder engine. It said it could go to 13,000, so it's not quite as good, but it's just ridiculous. Desmodromic valves. I mean, look at this. It's so stumpy. It's ridiculous. It only features one spark plug, which is actually an interesting thing because the KTM single cylinder actually has two of them. That comes down to some engine design stuff that is a little out of my pay grade, but I did think it was interesting that this one only had one single spark plug. The engine cases are vertically split as well, too. It's a very interesting engine design, and it mostly derives itself from the 1299 Panigale engine. But one more thing I wanted to say about this. Take a look at this engine. It's a little bit more of the bike here. The other thing I would love to see in this, love to see in this, I severely doubt it's going to happen, but it would be the coolest bike to come out in ages, and it would give something to compete with the old Kramers that used to come out. So Ducati used to make something called the Super Mono. It was this ultra lightweight single-cylinder race bike that they made. I would love to see a fully fared variant of this machine with this engine that's designed to take on stuff like the R7, the RS660, but using a single cylinder. I think that would be the most Chad move ever if Ducati did that. If they rocked up to compete against the twins, the RS660 and the R7, the freaking single cylinder that was ultra lightweight, oh, dude, that would be the coolest thing ever. I would be just over the moon about this. I would be so excited if Ducati would do that because it would be such a cool harkening back to the Super Mono and all that stuff. But for now, we do get it in a Supermoto configuration. It's still got the steel tubular trellis frame. It looks very dirt bike-esque. It's I can't imagine they're gonna not turn this into some sort of enduro model, maybe like a Desert X Mono, or how could you not? How could you spend all the time and energy to develop a Supermoto platform, but then not use it for other stuff? I mean, look at KTM. They use their 690 engine in like 6 different motorcycles, right? I have to believe that Ducati is going to do something with this Supermoto engine and frame. They're quoting, I believe, $15,000 for this, $14,400, something like that. You can get it in 2 different colorways, the RVE design with the crazy colorways, and then just the classic red, which this looks really good. This looks like the old 1098 Hypermotard that they used to make, which was really, really sweet. That was a cool bike. We have a single-sided disc over here, so, pretty, dirt bike turned into Supermoto stuff. If you look at the frame here, stressed engine member, it's dangling off the ends here. It's not a cradle frame, which is interesting. Some of the Supermoto models are a cradle frame because they come from dirt bikes. This is not. That swing arm looks nice and long too. The linkage suspension right here, that's a pretty good design. The exhaust coming out just like a dirt bike. I mean, it's a peculiar motorcycle, but like I said, it just feels like Ducati is completing side quests at this point. Twin muffler, which is a bit strange. I don't know why the Hypermotard features 2 mufflers. You can see them right there. Kind of reminds me of the Aprilia SXV or SVX 550, the twin-cylinder motocross bike that Aprilia... Was that Aprilia? Yeah, they built that. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. So... yeah, 116 millimeter over 62.4 millimeter for bore and stroke. Absolutely outrageous. 77.5 horsepower up to 83 or something with the Termignoni exhaust. Who cares? A stupid amount of power. Really interesting motorcycle that Ducati has decided to build here. It's again, odd they went for it, but they did it. You got to commend them for it. Let's see what Chad has to say about it. Chris here says, Ducati comes off like Audi to me or Mercedes in the car world. Yeah, a little bit, K&M says, it's the high horsepower single. Yep, it is. Austin says, covered with an asterisk. I'm not sure what that means. K&M says, if they use whatever that motor is and downsize it for the dirt bike, it's going to be fast, really, really fast. I really think they're going to do that because I don't see why you would spend all that development time and resource in that single and not just shrink it and then turn it into a 450 and just make it just absolutely outrageous for competition use. Because if I remember correctly, some 450s now, I think the KTM 450s and the Yamaha 450s, they make like 60 horsepower or something like that out of a 450, which is it's just ludicrous amounts of power. So I do hope that they use that because it's pretty sweet. All right. Last bit of news here for the news portion. Talking about the 2024 Suzuki GSX-8R. This was something that we saw a lot of rumblings of, but now it's finally here. And I got to tell you, first looking at this thing, it's ugly. This thing is ugly, dude. I'm sorry. I know to the Suzuki simps out there, you want me to love the bike, but this is a hard bike to look at. You have the profile here, a little bit of a Gixxer, but you have the stacked lights here. It's really not doing it for me. So what is this motorcycle? Well, it's based on the Suzuki GSX-8S, the naked bike that debuted earlier this year, or perhaps even, I think it debuted last year, if my memory serves me correctly. 776cc parallel twin, making 80-something horsepower and 56 foot-pounds of torque, or thereabouts. And this is kind of the sport-derived version of that. But one thing I want to point out to you guys, let's take a look at this bike over here. So same frame, same subframe, same suspension, same running gear. Everything is basically the same. But look at this over here. Look at where the clip-ons are located. Look at where the seat is. Look at where the foot pegs are. Look at this rider triangle. Really not that aggressive. If you're telling me this is a Yamaha R7 competitor, I'm not really buying it because look at where those clip-ons are. Look at where the handlebars are. I mean, this is way far up there, man, honestly. You're going to have the same screen. This is from the GSX 1000 and all that, the TFT with the 3 rider modes, the A, B, and C, and the simple TC. This is exactly from the GSX-8S. Nothing different there. Same running gear, I believe. But yeah, this is kind of designed to go up against the Yamaha R7, the CBR 650R, the Daytona 660 that people are kind of talking about now. But it's I mean, look at that cockpit. Look how this is totally raised up. This is really comfortable. This is like Ninja 650 ergonomics. Look at that right there. Look at this ratio from right here to right here. On an R7, it's like here's the seat and then here's the clip-on. It's very, very different. It's not nearly this comfortable. So this to me is kind of like this is kind of what Kawasaki should do with the Ninja 650 platform. They should 270-degree crank. They should increase the displacement, keep the price low. Because I guarantee you, what Suzuki's going to do here is they're going to make the price very, very approachable for this machine. And then they're going to say, well, it's a bigger displacement than the R7 and the RS660, and it costs less. Don't you want that? But be careful with that, right? Because that's not the be-all, end-all. It's not just bigger displacement, better bike, blah, 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 because it actually makes less peak power than an Aprilia RS660, has way less technology than an Aprilia RS660, and ultimately, I think, is going to be a very different riding experience. This looks much more like almost like a sport touring bike, dude, honestly. I mean, look at this rider triangle again. So we have radially mounted brakes, which is pretty cool. Let's take a look at those right over here. The radially mounted Nissans, that's pretty sweet. You'll like to see that. I don't think we have name brand suspension on this. I think it's just Suzuki in-house stuff, which is really not the worst thing in the world. I will say Suzuki's always tend to punch well above their price point in terms of handling. I remember we test rode a GSX-1000S a few years ago, and I was like, dude, this bike handles so well, and it's just got good bones. However, that was based on a GSX-R superbike, so of course it handled really well, right? See here that 776 parallel twin making its way in a lot of different motorcycles. You have the Suzuki V-Strom 800, you have the 8R, you have the new GSX-8S. There is this kind of revolution happening in this space. Displacements are going up and things are changing. So yeah, I think this is going to be a little bit interesting. So we're saying here on Cycle World, saying it's Suzuki's response to the R7, and thanks to uprated suspension and a reworked riding position, it promises to be one of next year's most interesting new sport bikes. Again, sure, it can have a little bit stiffer suspension and the riding position is a little bit more forward, but this doesn't look different enough to me to warrant calling it like a whole cool new brand new sport bike. The R7 genuinely was a totally reworked bike. The geometry is different. The master cylinder was different. The riding position was radically different. I will hold my breath. I will wait with bated breath to see if that is the case here for the Suzuki 8R. But to me, it doesn't really feel like it's a super big step for Suzuki. But you guys already know I'm not the biggest Suzuki fan anyway. So if you're upset at me, I'm sorry, but that is the truth here. So that's kind of the Suzuki GSX-8R. That's going to round out our news. Lots coming out from EICMA. If y'all want me to cover anything else, let me know in the comments on the Discord and all that. And we'll go from there. But guys, let me take a quick water break, and then if y'all want, I'll open up the calls and we'll go have some fun and I can answer some questions. That sounds like a good time. All right, guys, we're doing the call-in section here. I'm going to, how do I turn off? Whatever, I'm just going to keep Discord running. It is what it is. I'm going to drop the phone number on Discord and on YouTube chat. And if you all want, give me a ring and ask me anything you want. It's open forum. So here you go. Here you go. Give me a call. I got the voice thing opened up. And we'll answer some questions. Let's have some fun. Hey, what's going on? You're on the Yamcast. What can I do for you, my friend?
Hey, what's going on, brother?
Not much here. I'm just hanging out, trying to answer some questions.
Yeah, so I saw that, Cowie's coming out with that Z500 and all that, but, man, Honda's been in the game with that. I mean, I'd say lackluster at best, the CB freaking 500, but I think they kind of screwed themselves just because they've been in the game for so long. You know, now Kawasaki and all these other companies can come out and just be like, wow, look at our new 500. And you know what I mean? Honda kind of gets left in the dust. But like I'm a Cowie loyal. The Ninja 400 is such a tried and true track bike. You know, like I don't know why they're going this way. I mean, I get it for emissions, but I can't really justify it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. I also feel like going with the longer stroke engine is just going to be worse for track days, and I can't see the Ninja 500 being as tried and true for track days as the 400 was. And yeah, it's funny, like you said, you know, Cowie comes out like, oh, our new 500, and Honda's like, we've been making this for forever, but they're not going to get any of the limelight, you know? Like, they're just there.
Yeah, like they paved the way in the 500 class, which, if we're being honest here, isn't really a great class.
No, it kind of sucks. It's like the worst
big,
of both
heavy
worlds.
400. Yeah, like I raced. So I raced the ZX6, and I had a 2018 that sadly got wrecked, and I bought a 2012, which is the 599 motor from back in Cowie's history, and it only works with the 600 platform because all the 636s is stroked out 600. You know what I mean? But with all the benefits, it doesn't work for those tinier motors that really don't make any power in the first place. You know?
Yeah.
It just adds weight to something
the
that
rev
doesn't
ceiling
need it.
is going to be lower too, and the weight's higher. Yeah, it's the opposite of what
Yeah.
you want for a fun sport bike for sure.
And I feel like one thing they've overlooked is reliability because something with such a short stroke, you know what I mean? That's a lot less rotating mass, and it would wear out fast. You know what I mean? Yeah, the torque number is going to be a lot better, but not even much better. It's really not that much bigger.
Yeah, it's not, and it's funny because we test rode the CF Moto 450 against the Ninja 400, and in a straight line they were functionally the same speed because, like you said, you know, the rotating mass and the extra weight, and it still meets A2 compliance, so it's the same power to weight ratio basically. So it's to me, it's mostly just like marketing and being like, oh look, it's a 500 now, and it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, you're
But
like,
it'll
it's
sell.
500.
It'll sell.
Oh, I know it will. That's the thing too. Is like with the CF Moto, like, what's going to stop somebody from tossing, a couple of Showas on the front and a nice rear shock on and being like, wow, look at my nice new bike and it handles great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think
You
CF
know?
Moto is coming out with the SR. It's got like a single-sided swing arm. It's got the 450 in it. It's like I think I got a different front end. I don't know if that's gonna make it to the States, but I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, everybody's making a 500 now. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is it cracks me up because I'm out in the Northeast and I got an oval racing background, like cars, and CF Moto is actually sponsoring a car at the track, and I saw that and I was like, what?
Interesting.
They're just showing up everywhere. Yeah, well, that's my background growing up. But after I got out of the service, I bought a bike when I was in and came back home and started racing motorcycles. And
Nice.
I mean, that's my passion, but growing up, you know what I mean? And I still go to the track. And I
Yeah.
saw CF Moto stickers, and I was like, what in the world is going on right now?
Yeah, they are just like, I don't want to say like a cancerous tumor spreading because that makes it a negative connotation, but that's how it feels. They're just literally everywhere, It's like they're just spreading out. It's crazy.
Dude, they came in out of nowhere. Like, literally out of nowhere. I feel like they came out of nowhere because, all these companies are established well over, 80 to 100 years. I mean, even Aprilia is, like, they haven't been around for a really long time. What is it, like the 90s, if I'm not wrong?
Yeah, I think they're a little older than that, but they're more recent efforts in terms of like proper bikes making it to the States and stuff. I think since the 90s, yeah. They've got rich two-stroke history, so.
Yes, they do. That's
Yeah.
one thing I kind of wish that they would bring back in MotoGP is maybe two strokes again.
Oh,
I
that'd
don't
be
know.
cool.
I know that's never going to happen, but with all the technology now, I feel like two-stroke MotoGP again would be absolutely insane.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous. Yeah.
It would be absolutely nuts. Bring back the 752 strokes and let everybody go nuts.
Oh my God. Yeah, just have people high-siding
Just
constantly.
Constantly. Well, that's the thing is the technology now kind of stop that.
Actually,
'Cause
that's
it's not
true,
like
yeah.
the bikes now.
Can you imagine,
the
can you
bikes
imagine a
now make
two-stroke with the TC sound just like brrrr?
yeah. But I don't know, it's just the world of bikes is changing. Like I didn't really get into bikes until about 2 years ago. I mean, I was always interested in them, but my focus was always cars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But as soon as I hit the bike world, I fell in love. My first bike was a ZX6.
Nice.
I mean, I was a dumbass who bought a bought a 600 as my first bike, but I mean, I adored that thing so much. Hell, I bought a non-street legal track bike for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then like you said,
So
you started racing and doing track day stuff, so you went about it the right way. So that's awesome.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well,
Hey.
cool, man. Nice chatting with you. Let's open up the lines. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, man. Hey, have a good day. All right.
You
Appreciate
too.
you.
Later. That was a lovely conversation about the 500s and bringing back two strokes in MotoGP and stuff like that. Really appreciated that. That's a nice convo. All right, who's up next? Come on, let's go.
Call from
Damian Bonds.
Hey there, Damien. You are on the stream. What's up?
How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good.
So, I just recently got into riding. I'm the one in the chat that has the GS500F,
Nice.
and I'm looking to upgrade or at least move to a different starter bike. I was thinking about the R3, the Ninja 400, or upgrading to one of the Aprilias.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out which would be best to move on to from the 500.
So how long have you had the 500 and what have you done with it?
I haven't done a lot. This is my first season. I'm looking to buy at the end of next season.
Okay.
Right now I've got about 2 months of riding on it.
Okay.
And I'd eventually like to go to tracks, which is why I was looking at like a 400.
Yeah. Okay, so let's think. If you're going to keep that bike for the next kind of like while until the next season, that stands to reason you're going to put some decent mileage on it. Unless do you live somewhere super cold? Is it just like winterized now?
Ohio.
Okay, so a godless land full of, Mad Max kind of things. Got it. So I think if you want to do track days and you're serious about it, you can't go wrong with the 400, even though it's sort of a lateral move, right? Because you're going from the 500 to the 400, the power output's going to be similar, but you'll learn a lot with it, and also it'll just be way cheaper than getting an Aprilia. Even the 457 with the new one that they're making, nobody knows anything about that one yet, but if you get the 660. So that would be my choice if I were you. I mean, if you are looking at that and it calls to you and you're like, yeah, the 400 could be really cool. It's a great motorcycle, dude. I've had, how many of those have I bought at this point? Like 5 or 6 of them. I've had so much experience with them. I've raced them. I've track dayed them. They're fun, and they're still fun even for me, like all these years later. So that's a bike you could keep too, which would be pretty cool. You could keep the 400, and then if you wanted something bigger, you could keep that in the stable, and then get like an MT10 for the kind of stupid street stuff or whatever, and kind of always keep the 400. So that's what I would do if I were you.
Okay. I just felt, because I'm 6'1", I've sat on the 400 and they're kind of short.
Okay, I didn't know that. So yeah, you could be a little cramped on it. You can modify the ergonomics a little bit to make them fit you. You could maybe lower the pegs a little bit or increase the handlebars. But it is always going to be a bit of a diminutive bike for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know Aprilia has somewhat of a reputation for not being super reliable. Have they started to figure out those kinks and get rid of them?
Yeah, I think the first model year of the RS660 had a couple weird issues, but I think the new ones now in the 2024 and going into 2025 model year bikes should be pretty well sorted, I would say. I'd be surprised if you had any major issues with it if you're looking at the 660.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, good deal, man. Good luck, and if you get the 400, post about it on the Discord. I'd love to see it.
Will do.
All right. Take it easy.
You too.
So, debating increasing from a GS500 to a Ninja 400. Again, people think the big number's better, but Ninja 400 is a way better bike than a GS500. It's pretty good. But yeah, Aprilias have also, I don't know, that is like a first track day bike or racing bike. Kind of a lot, especially if you crash it. Not going to be fun. So, yeah, take another calls though, folks. Hit me up. What have you got? Also, if y'all are nervous and you don't want to call, I will also take questions on chat. So If you have a question on chat, let me know on YouTube or on Discord, and I will answer the question. So hit me up on the Yamcast one or on the YouTube chat, whichever one you want. All right, just waiting. I think someone's typing something on Discord. I'll wait on that one. Maybe take another call. If not, I do have to get going here in a little bit. I promised my wife I'd be back home at a certain time, so I will have to shut it down here. But this was a bit of an experimental format, this solo live stream thing. I've done it a few times before, but I think we can maybe increase it. All right, here we go. Question. Bringer of Hars on Discord, do you think that the bigger engine shuffle will be worse for newbies because of the ever-increasing torque? As a new rider, torque seems to be troublesome as horsepower at higher revs. That is a really good point. And something that people don't think about a lot is they only look at horsepower figures, but, you know, the torqueier an engine, the more it's going to snap, at low down in the revs. So, yeah, I think that's a good point. I do think that a 450 parallel twin is still relatively calm, and also nowadays with increasing in electronics and throttle mapping and those sort of things, it's actually pretty easy to kind of really nicely, gently apply power. The Royal Enfield Himalayan is a 452cc single, but it is the most gentle, friendly little motorcycle because it's a ride-by-wire, and it just kind of like really nicely just kind of like gently ushers you along. So I think that's going to kind of be the thing. But it's interesting too because I feel like, we're up to now, the adventure bikes are 1300 cc's. They're going to be at 1390 cc Super Duke. Everything is getting bigger because of emissions, and now the beginner bikes are reflecting that too. I wouldn't be surprised if, in a couple of years, maybe by the late 2020s, it's like 650s are the beginner bikes, and they're just like neutered in terms of throttle. But also, electrification is coming and hybrids are coming. So maybe this is kind of like we're reaching peak beginner bike. We're just reaching like, the only reason these things are changing are because of emissions. So something to think about there. Alrighty, folks, I got time for one more question. All right, Madeline Goat on chat says, random question, how do y'all feel about automatic motorcycles? If directed at me, my opinion, I think automatic bikes are great. If it gets more people on two wheels, that is a really solid use of the motorcycling industry's power. We should definitely try to get more people interested and invested in motorcycling. And if automatic bikes help more people get into it, that makes me really happy as a motorcyclist. Are they my preferred way of motorcycling? I wouldn't say so necessarily. I do like a clutch and the whole engaging aspect of riding. That's one of my favorite things about it. And so the only reason I would get an automatic is if I was on a scooter or something and I just kind of want to bop back and forth and I want something more low stakes and kind of fun. So let's see if anybody else has anything on Discord. It doesn't look like it. So folks, that's going to wrap up the stream. How about that? Let's go ahead and wrap it up today. Only 2 calls. We'll try to get them a little bit better next time. If there's anything that you think could improve about the stream, let me know. Again, this solo format is very different to me, not something I'm used to, but I think it is fun to hang out and chat with you guys. It's definitely one of my favorite parts of what I do here is talking to all of you. So let me know if I can improve it in any way. If it was a bit boring, let me know that too. Happy to hear it. But yeah, without further ado, I guess that's the end of the show. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. See you later.